Buenas and half a day, everyone. This is Gabriela Diaz, and I'm currently studying at the University of Guam this semester. So I definitely thought a lot about some of the advice that I'd give to students who are considering going abroad, or for those who are actually packing and getting ready to pursue a study abroad opportunity through NSE, or in general, really, during college. I thought a lot about this throughout the semester. And even though I've been giving it a lot of thought, I think it still really resonates and is really similar to something that I said in the beginning of the semester before I actually left for here. And I think, the biggest piece of advice that I'd give, probably one of the most important that I can emphasize, having grown from my experiences here and having taken classes at the UOG, is definitely it's worth it to become a little more informed about where you're going, where you're going to be pursuing your study abroad experience before you leave, and especially while you're there. And I think genuinely, I have to say without a doubt, this is one of the best ways to really get the most out of your study abroad experience, since you're not going to be there forever and you're only there for such a limited period of time. In thinking about my own personal experience this semester, I have to say that being open-minded and approaching the whole study abroad opportunity with an open mind is absolutely, it's a prerequisite, first before anything else. I have to say that it's definitely helped me grow in terms of, my patience and my willingness to be flexible and a lot more accepting of, extenuating circumstances and things like that. I like to go into things more planned, and I like to map out and envision what things are going to be like. Sometimes I have a tendency to worry, if things don't go my way. And I think that's really natural, especially as college students. I don't like to wing things too often. I try not to wing things if I really don't have to. I think that resonates with everyone. But, when you apply and you get accepted to a study abroad program and you're preparing to go on exchange, you definitely have to be open and willing to be flexible and understanding, and things are going to get shifty. You're definitely going to run into messy situations. You're going to feel things that you've never felt before, and you're going to be dealing with a lot of adversity that's tied up with being in a new space, having to call a different space home for a semester, for a year, however long you're going to be staying there. If I can be real honest here, I call this place and I consider Guam home a lot more than I do the United States, where I'm currently studying at my home campus, the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. And even if I was raised in the United States, the continental United States, should I say, I don't consider it home the way I consider Guam home. But even then, I definitely approach the NSE experience with an open mind, and just knowing that I'm going to go through things and see things, and my eyes are going to be a lot more open to things that were normalized to me, or maybe that I never really thought much of. And so I think that's really telling of my personal growth this semester, but also how important it is to, first before anything, just keep an open mind and approach the NSE or whatever study abroad opportunity you're pursuing. Just be open and just be willing to kind of go with the flow of things, and if you keep yourself closeted and you keep yourself confined, you're going to miss out on so many wonderful opportunities. So I guess on the note of being open-minded and being a little more self-aware of things like that, being more self-aware of your needs, or what needs to be done before you leave, getting everything straight, getting everything in order for you to be able to leave comfortably, in order to embrace this kind of opportunity and this, your exchange trip, in order to really enjoy it and again maximize that time and everything that you're going to get out of it. It's really nice to be able to leave your home campus feeling good and feeling secure about your study abroad trip. Knowing that you're going with an intent and that you have purposes, you have things that you want to complete or accomplish while you're abroad. Before I left for the University of Guam, I remember having to go through some of the prep orientations established by my home campus. So their study abroad centers, I know, definitely had us go through a couple online training courses, and I remember going through it, and there was one particular section that discourage students from, participating or attending political rallies or demonstrations or gatherings. And I want to clarify, if you're visiting or you're studying abroad somewhere where it's really heavily militarized, and I know, sometimes criticizing, the government of a given place can land you in significant trouble, if not, brutally assaulted or things like that. Of course, abstain from attending political demonstrations in countries that are unsafe to do that. But I have to say that I definitely attended the Fanogi Self-Determination March in September, and I would have advised all students who were attending the UOG this semester as study abroad students to attend the Fanogi Self-Determination March, because it was really eye-opening, and it's a good way to start off the semester, learning a little bit about where you are. And it's not just about experiencing the culture, it's about also seeing realistically what it's like outside of the campus and outside of the dorms. It's the point of going all the way out there, and living in the dorm, living somewhere for a semester is not exactly enough, especially if you're not native to that place to really get to know the culture. It's just not enough to watch it from your dorm. Definitely another thing that was evident in some of the prep classes that I took before I left for my study abroad trip was that how important it was for one to be aware and a little cognizant of some of the social and cultural norms pertaining to where you're studying abroad. And I think this is a really good starting point. I think it's a good starting point in helping students to be a little more self-aware and definitely a lot more informed before they leave, in order to prevent any kind of conflict or things like that. Doing your homework and doing a little bit of research prior to leaving for your study abroad trip is definitely, I definitely advise that. I am not at all saying that, before you go abroad, you need to write a whole book, manuscript, or dissertation on the history of wherever you're going abroad. But what I am saying and what I am advising is that it's absolutely necessary to do a little more homework than just be aware of some of the cultural differences, because some of these cultural differences are not just merely differences or differences in opinion or culture. They have really heavy issues entangled with them, such as histories of colonialism for places such as universities in the United States, being as the United States is American Indian homeland, and places like Guam, places like Hawaii again as an illegally occupied nation rather than a legitimate state. When you're pursuing a study abroad or exchange trip, you're not only traveling somewhere else, you're not only somewhere else representing yourself, on behalf of yourself, but you're also there on behalf of your institution. So you're representing your home campus as well, and in a lot of cases, in more ways than one, you're definitely representing your home country as well. So, if that's not enough to really encourage you to bring your A game a little bit, show up to class, do justice to your home campus and your home country, your home community, if you will, knowing that you're going to be on indigenous lands, if not, for the sake of your home campus, your home country's legacy. You need to understand that if you're a visitor on someone else's land, you do have obligations to definitely conduct yourself in manners that are both respectful and responsible and informed by, an understanding of the place you're in. I'm thinking a little bit more about, what I learned from my classes at UOG, some of my personal experiences here on Guam this semester, and kind of thinking a lot about, what I learned before I left for Guam, having taken that prep class through the Study Abroad Center at my home campus up in Minnesota. And, it's funny to me thinking about, what good is it to learn some of the really shallow, really trivial cultural and social differences when coming here and just having a really shallow sense of that when, Guam hasn't had sovereignty since the early 1500s. We haven't had our independence since the 1500s, and a lot of people often come to Guam and simply understand Guam as a U.S. territory when we're actually a U.S. colony, and we're in an unincorporated territory at that, just like Puerto Rico, meaning that, You know, we have U.S. citizenship. We're technically a part of the U.S. Citizenship, but the flag doesn't, you know, where the flag falls, the Constitution doesn't exactly apply by definition, being an unincorporated territory. I talked a little bit about this in my last week's video in week 14 if you want to check that out. But, you know, places like here, you know, what's the point of learning simply the mere cultural and social differences when out here, like we've been under U.S. occupation since the early 1900s, having really fell into U.S. possession as a spoil of war after Spanish-American War. You know, we've lost a lot of land, and there are a lot of wonderful independence movements and sovereignty movements and activism right now. We're fighting a huge battle against the U.S. military for our lands and our right to, you know, hold on to our ancestral homelands, and you know, our rights for our ancestral remains to remain actually in these lands, being as a lot of them are being excavated for military purposes and military development. So I guess my best way to kind of wrap all of this up is to, you know, emphasize, in my opinion, as a Chamorro person from the Pacific, as a Pacific Islander, you know, how important it is to really understand your being and your being in a place in relation to the history of that place and the people of that place. My decision to take Guam history, language, and culture classes, it was definitely deliberate. And it wasn't, you know, just some elective or some second option elective that I wanted to take in place of something else. Luckily, it is a part of my major back at my home campus, the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, as an American Indian Studies major. But, you know, again, a little bit on something that I talked about earlier in the semester. I wanted to come here with the intention of being a lot more informed about where I am, even as a native person to this place, even as someone who has called this place home and still very much calls this place home. There are things that I learned only through taking classes at UOG that, you know, I would not have gotten anywhere else. You know, so the Micronesian Area Research Center, again, I wouldn't have been able to get that anywhere else, and I would have only been able to have access to that by coming here. So, you know, again, as someone from here and someone who calls this place home, who is so familiar with it, there were things that, you know, I never would have thought about twice had I not been taking classes at UOG and had I not pursued this experience and this study abroad opportunity. So I guess that's a little bit of a testament to how important I think it is exactly to be informed, to be conscious about some of the colonial and political and historical context of wherever you're going to be studying abroad. For those of you who haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe to the National Student Exchange Program on YouTube and on other social media for more content like this. I guess if I want to just wrap up and finalize my last video for the semester, I want to give a Donkulu Nasi Du'os Masi to all who have been watching me and just following me and supporting me through this study abroad experience and my journey this semester back home, and for my learning Chamorro and learning a lot more about, you know, my culture, my history, and my people. You know, and especially Donkulu Nasi Du'os Masi to everyone who's been watching some of the NSE content this semester and just supporting all of the brand ambassadors this semester.